in my opinion, the worst Sabres player on the ice that night, it was Devon Levi. He had a rough night.
Yeah, he had a rough one. It might have been his worst game in the NHL. I mean, most of those goals were pretty weak, like they were savable shots.
The Kraken's second goal was it was not a shot that was meant to go in by Vince Dunn, and somehow he floated it in past Levi. And then, I mean, the Matty Beniers goal when he scored that, you knew this. It just was it was a bad performance.
Yep.
He let
You
the
could
team
tell he
down.
was frustrated. So, I mean, that's where you're gonna get up and downs with Devin Levi. You could talk about this all you want, but that's how it was gonna be this season. So, and on the other hand, I know we haven't got to it yet, but UPL's been at least playing better. So at least one of our goalies has been playing better. Levi's been like, I feel like every other game, or he plays a bad game, then he plays two really good games, and then he plays a bad game. Like he's very inconsistent. UPL's been a little more consistent, at least these past few weeks.
And staying on Devin Levi, what happened the next day was a bit interesting. So Jeff Marek goes on his show, and one of his main talking points was about the Sabres, and more specifically, their handling of Devin Levi's first season in the NHL. And it was there were some choice words to say the least. He is not a fan of how they've handled things. Just some quotes here. I'll list them off, and JP, I'll let you give your thoughts first. Quit trying to make this work. It's not going to, and this team is not going anywhere, and all you're going to do is wreck this goalie. End quote. I don't know that there's another general manager that would continue to let this happen. I've had conversations with other teams about what are they doing with Devin Levi? What are they thinking? They're not going through any sort of traditional development model. You know who goes from college to the NHL and stays there? Nobody. Nobody does that, not at that position.
I don't know. It's tough because I, yeah, I might be in the minority, but I think I still did agree with keeping him up. I mean, it's tough because obviously the right development path is probably stick him in the AHL, let him dominate to bring him up. But he was our best goalie down the stretch last year. I mean, he showed that he can hang and that he has the potential to be one of the top goalies in the league. And that was off of, a college season. He was all over the place. And then he comes right into the NHL and he's playing good. So like I don't blame Kevin Adams for keeping him up. It's like Levi showed what he could do. Let's just get him some games. Let's get him some more games and see how it goes. But with that being said, he did really lock himself into this position with having, three goalies in the AHL now. Like it wouldn't be too surprising to say, okay, this rookie goalie coming right out of college, he's not doing the best in the league right now. So we should at least have the option for him to go down to the AHL. And I don't think we have that. I mean, if we sent him down, we'd have, we'd have three goalies. He'd probably bring Comrie back up, who hasn't been too good. And it's just a tough situation all around. So I don't know. I think I'm in the minority where I agreed with it. But it is starting to get questionable. But he'll play an amazing game and everybody will love him. And then, he'll put up a Seattle game. So I don't know. At the same time, just get him games. Let him fight through it. I mean, he's gonna have to face adversity at some point, and I guess the season's already over with. So why not, let him fight out his struggles now? And he's gonna keep growing. But I don't know. What do you think, Jonah? I think you're on the other end of the spectrum.
A few things can be true all at once. It can be true that he can hang around. It can be true that he might even be the Sabres' best goalie option in the organization. But in my opinion, it doesn't mean that this was what was best for Devin Levi. There's a lot of rookies throughout the league not playing in the NHL that are probably better than a lot of third and fourth liners in their respective organizations. But you don't call them up right away because it's not what's best for them. What reason was there to rush this process with Devon Levi? Everybody was under the assumption that he was going to play in Rochester this season before he signed. And then he signed, then he played some pretty good hockey as a 21-year-old at the most crucial point in the Sabre season last year. And off of that 7-game sample size, they decided that he was going to be their starter going into next season. That's what this was based off of. And I get it. He played great in probably half of his games last season. His first game against the Rangers, the game against the Rangers in Madison Square Garden, the Florida game where he only let up 2 goals to the Panthers. He played really good in most of those games. He also did have a few stinkers that you saw the rookie in him. He let up 6 goals against the Red Wings. He's 21. And he's going to be fine because the pattern this season has been, okay, there's a rough start there. Okay, that's an iffy start. Oh, look, wow, what a good start. And then another, okay, rough start. Then maybe, oh my God, there's another great start. Maybe he steals another game for them. It's up and down, up and down, up and down, which is normal for a 22-year-old goaltender. And I have no issue with that in a vacuum. But unfortunately, the circumstances do not support that. In case you need a reminder, this team is sort of in the middle of quite the playoff drought. And he was the kid that's supposed to bear the weight of the crease on his shoulders. And he's doing just fine given the circumstances of his age and where he's at in his career. But relative to what he needs to be for this team, he's falling short because he's 22 years old. He's 22 years old. He's not a clear-cut starting goalie. He's not even a cut above Luukkonen and Comrie this season. I think like if it's do or die, win or go home, I'm taking him in a game 7 situation. But on the season, his performances really haven't been that much better than Luukkonen and Comrie.
Well, I think you brought it up, and I think the issue that Kevin Adams faced is that, Levi probably is the best goalie in our entire organization right now. So if you're really going into the season saying, this is the year we're going to make the playoffs, and you have your best goalie down in Rochester, I think that kind of sends a message to everybody that we're not trying to win. But that leads in another point that they should have gone out and gotten another goalie. Now, there weren't too many great options out there. I mean, look at Korpisalo for the Sens. I mean, he's literally the worst goaltender in the league right now, at least by expected goals against. But he probably is the best goaltender in our organization, and I think it is tough to have your best goalie down there. Like even when he was down in the AHL, right? We had Marty, right? He was up. He was our main goalie at the time. I don't know who the backup was, but Marty was a very good goaltender. Like, we don't really have that situation here.
You didn't, but at least you had 2 goalies with some experience. I don't know. Like, yeah, it's tough because goalies are voodoo and there's only so many good goalies. And by so many, I only mean a handful. But at the same time, everybody saw this coming, that he was going to play like a rookie. He has great performances and he has bad performances. And to risk that with how much was at stake with this season, you can do that. I will say you can do that. But your additions in the offseason cannot be 2 third-pairing defensemen. What did he do to protect Devon Levi from this situation? Nothing other than have faith in Don Granado to change their play style to make them more defensively competent, which they are marginally, but they've thrown away their offense in the process.
Barely. Yeah. Well, I think the other issue is that last year Levi could have gotten away with this because we could outscore our problems. This year we're not doing that. We don't generate offense. So if we had the same team as last year and we were putting up the goals and the offense that we were last year, this probably wouldn't be as big of a conversation. Because, Levi might have a bad night and let up 4 goals, but we're going to score 6 goals and he's still going to get the win and make a few big saves. Now it's like, he let up a big goal. He let up that third goal and the game was over and half the game was still left. So I think it also does lead into just the whole team being the problem, and that Levi has some bad games, but the teams don't help him there at all.
I want to make things clear. Goaltending is probably not in the top 3 of the Sabres issues this year. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. But I think Marek does have a point here right now, especially like this season is it's done. Like it's done, barring a miracle, which I feel like I've been saying that phrase for a good 2 months. It's done. So from here on out, where do you go with him? That's the question. Are you going to continue to let him eat the bullets while this team is not playing good hockey and their injuries are still piling up at a decent rate, especially after the Vancouver game? I don't think we've gotten word on Mattias Samuelsson. Are you going to continue to let him eat the bullet here and take the reps just to, I guess, tell your team, like, hey, we still believe that you guys can do it? Are you going to continue to keep doing that? Or are you going to, I don't know, let the guy develop in a natural way with a team that where he should be? I still think he should have been there going back to last season. But fine, like I said, he had that good stretch.
He was the reason we almost made the playoffs.
I just don't understand how they thought that this was going to work. We've been talking about this since July 1st, probably even before that. That this was going to be a huge risk. That if this somehow turned out to be successful, it would be against all odds. It would be against the historical consistency, because there is none for this. There's no precedence. And it's going exactly the way we thought. Exactly the way we thought. There's good performances in there, and there's bad performances. He's playing like a rookie. It's going exactly the way anybody would have imagined it. And it's still hurting them. It might be down the totem pole in their list of problems, but it's still hurting them because he's still a negative goaltender by goal save above expected. Or I guess depending on the model. Maybe another one has him positive, but he's barely average. And that's fine. That's honestly promising for a 22-year-old, but it's not helping this team substantially.
Yeah, I think they could really go pretty much one of two ways. They recognize the season's over and they're like, all right, let's just keep getting him reps. Let's have him fight through it. Let's have him fight through the adversity. We know he can do it. And just let him keep cooking up here. Or, they once they finally realize that, yeah, our season's cooked, it is done. You send him down, bring up Comrie, bring up another goalie too if you really want to, just so there's not a logjam down there, and let Levi carry them to playoffs. I actually have no idea how the Amerks are doing, if they're even in a playoff spot, but let him go down that playoff run and maybe, help them on that. And then he could cook down there, gain a ton of confidence. He'll be facing lesser competition. And then next year, he's up no matter what next year, I think. I mean, he's gone through all this. He's going to be your guy next year. But I think the only thing that I'm sure Kevin Adams is at least thinking about, and, really it shouldn't matter. He's a professional goaltender. But if you do send him down, like, what message does that send to him? Like, hey, you're part of the problem, so now go down the AHL. Like, I think he deserves to be down there probably. But at the same time, what message are you sending to your top goalie prospect in your organization? But I think that's what they should do. Hopefully, they recognize the season's over sooner than later. And he gets sent down and he could play a ton of games and face some lesser competition.
I think that that is the right path. But here's the corner that they've put themselves in. You send him down, you're waving the white flag on the season. At least to the players, that's what they're thinking. They see this kid go down in the NH or the AHL, they're thinking, okay, so we're done. This is like our admission of defeat. The organization doesn't think we can do it. I still want that to happen. I think he should be in the AHL. I do. At least from this point onwards. But it's going to have a negative connotation on the rest of the roster because they're all going to see it and they're going to think the same thing. This season is cooked. We're out. We're out of the race.
Yep. Yeah, the Amerks are technically in a playoff position right now because they take the top 5 teams from the division and they're 5th. They're not having the best of seasons, but it looks like they should make the playoffs. Let Levi take you down that path and see what happens.